Right, plenty to look forward to, including that game, and we'll come to that a little bit later. But let's start with the game that we've already seen, which is Luton Town against West Ham. And it was a big one for Luton, although they missed out on the points. It was a huge one because it was the first game for them at Kenilworth Road.
Yeah, it was a brilliant moment for Luton. It's a shame they couldn't get any points from it, but it was a decent performance. West Ham just run out a little bit too strong on the night with the quality and the technicians they have in the team. Paqueta there with a brilliant ball, Jared Bowen creeping in the back post, getting in there when it matters with a good header. And then West Ham had a couple of decent attempts. You can see their goalkeeper, Kaminski, might have done better. This is a second goal, great ball from Ward-Prowse. Zuma unmarked, poor marking. That'll disappoint Rob Edwards, the Luton manager, the marking, the non-existent marking, if you like. Zuma gets up well. Anderson there berates himself. You can see his reaction. And then Luton get one back in the end, Anderson. But a little bit too late for Luton to force that comeback. But I thought West Ham ran out comfortable winners in the end.
Yeah, West Ham have had a really great start to this Premier League season, haven't they? I mean, here, there's a penalty shout, Karen, a handball on James Ward-Prowse. What did you think of that? Because it wasn't actually given, and I'm sure there's a lot of Luton Town fans that will be disappointed about that.
It's a controversial one. I personally don't think it was a penalty. I think his arms are out because he's trying to header the ball, so for me that's natural. And I don't think it made a difference to the trajectory of the ball, personally. But it's a controversial one, and if it was given, equally I'd go, it was given. So I think Luton fans might be a little bit aggrieved, but I think John's right in the overall conclusion of the game. I think West Ham deservedly won.
And as for West Ham, unbeaten this season, they have great quality across their team, don't they? Yeah. How far do you think they can go? What are the expectations on them?
Well, I think they won a European Cup, a European trophy last season, the Conference Cup. I also think they were in a bit of a, not false, because you end up where you are, however you do in the league anyway, over 38 games. But they were in a bit of a relegation fight last season. They managed to get out of it towards the end. I think they not want to be dragged into that again. I think a top 7 or 8 European place. What does top 7 gets you back into Europe? A good cup run, and I think that'd be a good season. The top 7 for West Ham. That means they have to finish above the likes of Brighton, Tottenham maybe in there. So I think a top 8, 7 or 8 place, good cup run. They got good players to do that as well. Yeah,
they have, haven't they? And look, it's early days, but they're on the right track, aren't they? Because they've actually come up against some tough competition in terms of Brighton, haven't they, last week? And they've come up against Chelsea. And then Luton, a very different opposition. But they've managed to manage those games very, very well.
I think Chelsea and Brighton, they went, you can have the ball, we'll defend and we'll counter-attack, and they were ruthless. I mean, against Brighton, I think they had probably 20-odd% possession. Brighton just dominated it, but credit to them, defended very well, and like I said, excellent and clinical on the counter-attack. Tonight, a little bit different against Luton, where dominated the ball more and had to be patient and how they broke them down, Luton, but nonetheless effective, and David Moyes done a great job. And
does he get the credit he deserves, do you think?
Probably, maybe. I think even last year he tried to come out and said we're changing our style, because probably doesn't get the credit he deserves. I think he's done a brilliant job for West Ham, and like John said, he's put a trophy on the table for the football club.
Massive.
And they really enjoyed that European run as fans. So fair play to him. I think he's done a good job.
And the fans are enjoying themselves yet again. Look, we've got to talk about Luton Town a bit more. Your former club, back in the Premier League, but also back at Kenilworth Road, which we've not seen this season. They spent 90 days, over 3 months, just getting the ground ready. What would it have been like at the ground tonight? I know they didn't win, but such a special moment for them.
It was amazing. Although they got beat, it looked, the pictures and the atmosphere, it was as if they won. The fans thoroughly enjoyed it. Great to be back. And I think they've been on such a journey. They've hit rock bottom. They've come rising back to the top. The Premier League, you can't go any higher. And I just think they should really enjoy the journey this season. Don't put themselves under too much pressure. They'll pick up some decent results. I think it's going to be hard for them because the Premier League is full of quality. And I just think they should just go and enjoy it and take on the challenges. The They're a club that have just got £170 million for going into the Premier League. Use it wisely. They've got a new ground being built down by Luton train station. They've spent 10 million sort of renovating Kenilworth Road, making it, spicing it up, if you like. Just enjoy the journey. You're back in the Premier League. You're back in the top flight. You might get a few drubbings. You might lose 5-0 one week, 3-0. You might push teams at Kenilworth Road. But for me, enjoy it, because there's no pressure on them. If they go down, well, everybody will say, well, they're expected to go down anyway. If they stay up, it'll be miraculous for them.
OK, well, I'll tell you about pressure. It's ramping up on some teams because we've got, about 20 minutes left of this transfer window. And once it's shut, it is shut. So there you go, 20 minutes and 35 seconds and counting. So we'll still be on air. And actually, I've got some breaking news for you, because Manchester United have confirmed the signing of Sofia Amrabat on loan. Good bit of business there?
Very good. Top player, but it's exactly what they need. I mean, Man United at times, I watched them against Wolves. The following week, you could literally it was like a knife through butter in their midfield. So he comes in, he's everything they need just to shore them up, give them that support next to Casemiro, because he's looked quite vulnerable at times. So real top player.
I don't know about you, John, but I absolutely loved watching him throughout the World Cup. We followed him, all of us, didn't we? And, Morocco did a really good job of getting all the way to the semi-final.
He was brilliant in the World Cup. I thought he was disciplined. I thought his intercepting was brilliant. And not only intercepting balls, and then winning the ball back and making sure that he give it to a Moroccan shirt. He never wasted the ball. Very disciplined, and I think he'd be a great signing for United.
Well, they have a big game, don't they, coming up this weekend at the Emirates against Arsenal. And we're going to hear from Mikel Arteta, followed by Erik ten Hag.
The history between the two clubs and the games that we had in the past as well. Last year it was a really good example, so it's going to be an extremely competitive match, really a big battle on Sunday, and obviously we want to come away from that with 3 points. Before the international break, it's always very important to finish well, to win your game and go back now in September with another block of games before the next one with a high.
One of the biggest games in the Premier League, and how we're really looking forward, of course, that fight, and really always interesting games, intense games. I think it's very two teams who really play offensive football. The right intentions, I would say. The audience is always the big winner of that game. So, really looking forward to have that game.
We're really looking forward to this one. And I wonder how you see this, Karen, because I think it's quite a good opportunity to gauge where both teams are at, because they haven't been that convincing this season. No.
I think Arsenal went big in the transfer window. There's that pressure, that expectation, right, go and do that next best thing of winning. And that, for me, when I've watched them the last few games, they've played a little bit differently from last season. Last season, I thought they moved the ball so quick. It was rapid. It was just... I was so impressed with the intensity. This year it feels a little bit slower, but a little bit more controlled. But I felt they've struggled to break teams down, even though they have scored. But I expect them to have that intensity at home against Man United, because, like I said just a minute ago, Man United looked really vulnerable through that midfield. So if Arsenal really go for it with that pace at home, I think they could cause some big problems for Manchester United. But Man United as well are not playing well, but finding results. So... You're right, both teams not in the rhythm, but two top teams really figuring it out.
I mean, it's a sign of a good side as well, isn't it, when you can win not playing the best, especially at the start of the season. But for Arsenal, I wonder, how do you think they're coping with being a team now that everyone wants to beat? Because it comes with a different sort of pressure, doesn't it?
Well, expectation level, being at the top of the league for so many weeks. I think it was a record, actually, in the Premier League. They were at the top, leading the way. Great players. Saka, Martinelli, Nketiah, back in the team, scoring goals, playing ahead of Jesus. Rice, I think Rice makes them automatically better, stronger. You could arguably say that West Ham wouldn't have did what they did last season without the influence of Declan Rice, so he's a brilliant signing. Defensively, Saliba, Gabriel, they've strengthened at the back. And I genuinely feel Arsenal will have another top 4 season. Not quite sure if they can topple Man City. Man City, they're just a different animal.
Don't know if anyone can.
Oh, they can call on so many players. But I think Arsenal have to try. You know, they've added to the group, as I said, Havertz as well. I'm like Karen. I think Man United came back from 2-0 down last week to win 3-2, showed great character, spirit in the team. But they can't afford to start like that against Arsenal on the weekend. I mean, I know Arsenal were pegged back as well by Fulham, as you said. Neither team are really flying at the minute. But I don't think United can afford to go to the Emirates and concede 2 early goals. I think they'll get beat if that happens.
Yeah, how do you see it in terms of Man United's perspective? Do you see it as really poor for going behind so early on, 2-0, or do you see it as, well, actually they showed great character to come back? Which way do you look at it?
Like I said, the story in the start of the season, I think Man United have been poor, but when you have players like Rashford, who's playing his more preferred position on the left, and you've got magical players that can just create something out of nothing, you've always got a chance, and that's why they've probably spent 1.5 billion since Alex Ferguson's left. So I have to say it was a great comeback, and again, Rashford at his best.
It's like a flow of attack. I've been there. I went 2-0 up one year at Man United to Coventry, and we ended up losing 4-2. It's waves and waves and waves of attack, and just naturally you just drop. You're almost camped out on the edge of your 18-yard box. When that row, United get 1 back, they get 2 back. It's almost like it's inevitable they're going to get a winner, and I think that's what happened. I think they just caved in after a really great start at Nottingham Forest last week. Yeah,
I mean, they've obviously, we're talking about signings, obviously, because it's the transfer deadline. The window shuts very, very soon indeed, about just under 20 minutes to go. But the signing of Højlund, I mean, this is a game that he could make his debut. He is fit enough to do so. Is it a game, do you think the manager will start him in, or is it too big a game to make your debut in?
Personally, I'd probably wait. For me, it's a real big game. But then if tactically you think he's fit and he's available, and I can have a target player. I've got a goalkeeper now that can play short and draw you in, and Arsenal will press you because that's what they'll do, and you can skip it and go long to the target player. I'm sure John will know more about that than me. But if you have that option, I think it's a really good one. So I personally wouldn't, but if the manager, Ten Hag, believes tactically he can win us a football match and he's going to be our out, then he might play him.
What's he paid for him? 72 million? Something like that?
Yeah.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
How can you buy a player?
I mean, I'm sure the player would love to make his debut in a game like this, but it's whether the manager thinks he's ready.
He'd be chomping at the bit to get going, to get started, score his first goal for Man United, go and show the supporters you're worthy of that price tag. I know you haven't got much to say as a player about the price tag, but he's very, very highly rated by Ten Hag. He should be in the team. Get in the team. We need you. We need you right now at Arsenal. We need a centre-forward to score us goals with Rashford alongside him, do you know? So
I think the big question, though, Dan, is Amrabat fit? Because I'd prefer to play him. Personally, after seeing Man United's midfield the last few weeks...
It's what they need.
Yeah.
If he's fit, I definitely would play him next to Casemiro, but whether he wants a centre-forward in, you're going to back your centre-forwards, aren't you? I love it.
I just think he's his big summer signing. Get him in. Yeah. Get him in. What better place to go and start other than Arsenal?
Yeah, absolutely. OK, we're going to move on and talk about the late game on Saturday, and that's between Brighton and Newcastle. So we'll hear from Eddie Howe, but first, Roberto De Zerbi on signing Ansu Fati.
We are lucky because we have a lot of young players, potential top player, and it will be one responsibility more, no? Because if you work with this talent, you have much responsibility because it's a football heritage, and we can make mistake with this player because football needs this talent.
Roberto's done an amazing job. He's a very unique coach in the way that he gets his teams to play. Not many or any coaches I've seen sort of like him, and the style of play is very good. Very ball dominated, very clever, with how they set their teams up, and yeah, he deserves a lot of credit. His players deserve a lot of credit for what they've done, for what they achieved last year, and they've started this season well.
Two managers with so much talent. They deserve all the credit they're getting. But, of course, Eddie Howe really praising there Roberto De Zerbi, and rightly so. We've got to talk about Ansu Fati. What a good bit of business there, Karen.
Great bit of business, honestly. I know it's a hefty loan fee, but one of the most exciting prospects in world football, and his ability to beat a player 1v1, to dribble, to drive, and that's De Zerbi's game, is to get his best players in 1v1 situations to win them game. We see it with Matoma, and now you could do it with, Fati as well. So it's incredible. And I'm really, really excited. I know he went there because of De Zerbi. I know he was really excited by the philosophy and the style of football he plays. I just hope he excels, and I can't wait to see him do his thing personally.
I think that's the hope of all the Brighton fans as well, because we know he has the talent, but it feels as though De Zerbi is the best manager to unlock that talent, because he did struggle a little bit last season, didn't he?
Yeah, and put him into a system that Brighton want to play, and what Roberto De Zerbi where he wants him to play and be effective in that position. Brighton are just they're shining light to a lot of clubs in terms of losing their best players and then trying to replace them and still keep going and getting results and not looking as if they miss that player too much that they've just sold on. It's the blueprint for the club, the way they work. They sell players, they bring other players in, and they have a wonderful manager, brilliant tactician.
Yeah, they still have so much talent in the mix, though. But we're talking about the good start they've had to the season. It didn't go their way, though, against West Ham, did it?
No.
They struggled, didn't they, to find the back of the net, even though they had most of the ball?
Yeah, I think it was over 70-odd possession. I think they had 25 shots. I think, they absolutely dominated the game. But when you sell a player like Caicedo and you play against a West Ham team that play counter-attacking football, they didn't really have that midfielder to stop that from happening, that break in play. So that's something I know that the manager came out and said he was frustrated with, and something he'll have to learn. But I think tomorrow's game will be very different, where Newcastle will press. That will suit Brighton more, and they'll pick them off perhaps. But Newcastle are absolutely the best team off the ball in the Premier League for me. The physicality that they have is ridiculous in terms of how they press you. So out of all the games, actually, this is the one I'm most excited about this weekend.
Yeah, and also, I guess, when you think of Newcastle, they will be hugely disappointed with the way they lost to Liverpool last weekend. It was the manner of that defeat. So are you expecting to see some sort of reaction in this?
Well, I don't think they did an awful lot wrong. It was a proper sucker punch that Liverpool, for Newcastle to take last week. They were 1-0 up. They had some chances in the game. Liverpool were down to 10 men. Their best defender, Virgil van Dijk, for long periods in the game. And then Núñez just turns it on, frightening. And Liverpool break, they win the ball back. Newcastle a bit sloppy in the middle of the park, giving the ball away. Liverpool counter and score 2 quick goals. Eddie Howe's probably scratching his head after the game, thinking we've not done a lot wrong. We've played well. Crowd were brilliant, got behind us. For 89 minutes, 90 minutes, they're thinking they pulled off a great result against a brilliant team like Liverpool. And then it was just a right kick in the teeth, really, to lose the way they did. So nothing really changes for Newcastle. They'll go there, they'll be positive. It was a bad result against Liverpool, but again, they didn't do an awful lot wrong. And I think Isak is a brilliant player for Newcastle. What a talent he is. Got some really good players, they've strengthened, and just business as usual for Newcastle. I don't think they have to change a lot.
Yeah, they have strengthened, haven't they? And they do look like a very strong outfit now when you look at that first 11.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Gordon has really come of age. I think he went away, got to play the tournament at the under-21s for England, which they won this summer, and he's come into this Newcastle side, and he was the best player probably last week, but kept being given the ball, but it was just that opportunity of being that clinical, and that's when you keep Liverpool in the game. But then you sign Harvey Barnes as potentially his competitor, and Tonali in that centre midfield role. They've had to add because Champions League fixtures as well, and they're in an absolute mammoth group. But
do they have the depth to cope with the Champions League, do you think?
I think they've bought really well. Livramento, they've bought well. It's just I get concerned at how the intensity they play at, and can they maintain that with that group and the games that they've got coming. But I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine in the Premier League, like top team with a top manager.
I can only imagine, though, Champions League nights at St James's Park, that's going to be special.
And I think they'll get some decent results.
Yeah.
Teams won't want to go to St James's Park. You know, we're talking about Luton tonight, but you talk about Newcastle, and again, that's a different animal.
Okay.
You know, when them Geordies start. So I fancy them to do okay in the Champions League, although the group is very hard that they've got.
OK, well, I want to go old school now. Score prediction. Which way is this one going? I think this is a very tough one to call, but I don't know about you.
2-2.
Right.
I think Newcastle will win.
OK, interesting. Right, well, we are going to take a very quick break, after which we will continue our preview of this weekend's action. So do join us in just a few moments. We'll be focusing on Liverpool. Hello and welcome back to Team Talks, where we have just 2 minutes left of this transfer window. We'll bring you all of the latest and we'll round up all of the big transfer news towards the end of the show. And if there's any breaking news in the next minute and 58 seconds, I'll keep you right across it. OK, so Liverpool are set to take on Aston Villa this weekend. We're going to hear from both bosses, starting with Jurgen Klopp.
I think everybody agrees when you look at Villa, the players they brought in, it makes massively sense. Have speed on the wings. Watkins up front. McGinn, super smart, physical as well, but then really looking for these balls in behind and these kind of things. So it is a massive game, no doubt about it. And we have to play a top game.
Personally, I played against Liverpool with Villarreal 2 years ago in Champions League. We lost. Last year we played at home, we lost. In Anfield we drew. Very good match we did, very, very competitive match, and in a very key moment, because we needed to add 1 point or 3 to be in Europe, and we did it. And they were fighting, trying to get the top 4 position to play in Champions League. And that is the example I want to use.
Well, this should be a really good game as well. And I think Liverpool fans will be delighted that Mo Salah is still a Liverpool player, although the transfer window might shut here, it doesn't shut elsewhere until later on in the month. So that we'll talk about a little bit more later on. But as for Liverpool, we touched on it earlier, but Karen, they beat Newcastle, but it was the fashion in which they came back to beat them. How big a win was it for them?
Massive. Character, they were really up against it. You know, I was worried for Trent Alexander-Arnold early on when he was on that yellow card and could have gone. You lose Van Dijk and you're thinking... But when you've got a front line that you start with 3 that are world-class and then you go, OK, well, that's not working, we'll bring on another 3 that are world-class. There's going to be opportunities, and last week it fell to Nunez and he took both chances brilliantly. But I thought it was a real dogged performance, a group that came together and... it was a great win.
And from Nunez's perspective, it was really big for him, wasn't it? Especially for a striker's confidence. What will those goals have given him?
Well, I think he believed in himself, but he just needed the goals to go and show everybody else, really. Again, arrived for an awful lot of money from Benfica a couple of seasons ago. And now we've got the likes of McAllister, Salah, who's decided to stay, of course, after all the furore today, all the talk. And I always fancied Liverpool at Anfield. For some reason, I don't know why, I just think they're a brilliant home side when that crowd gets up as well. And of course, Aston Villa, Unai Emery, brilliant what he's done there. You know, Diaby, Ollie Watkins, England strike. Is he in the England squad? I'm sure if he is, Ollie Watkins.
Yeah.
Yes.
He is.
John McGinn, they've got really, really good players. They've got good wide players, pace. And they've had a couple of good results. I know they got thumped at Newcastle in the opening day. Really good performance against Everton last week or the week before. And I think it's a really good game. I think it's an open game. Could go either way, but I just fancy Liverpool. I always fancy them at Anfield. I don't know why. I can never go against Liverpool at Anfield. They're just so good.
I think so much of the talk about Liverpool over the years has been about Liverpool's midfield, how it was an ageing midfield of Hendo, Milner, Fabinho. But now it's completely transformed, hasn't it, Karen?
It is. McAllister, world-class winner. You know, Enzo coming in, and Slobosai, I thought he is an absolute... I really love him. His energy, his pressing, how he controls the ball, and, you know, his strength. I really, really like him. So it is a very new look Liverpool in that midfield area, and it might take a little bit of time to get used to, especially how, as you mentioned, the old guard was so... It was them always, and you always knew what the Liverpool 11 was. So it might take a bit of time, but like I said, when you've got a front line like Liverpool, it will always give you a great chance. And I think, not because I'm a Birmingham City fan, Seema, I'm agreeing with you there, John. I think at home they were just too good, too strong, that crowd, and their unbeaten run at the moment stretches back a long, long way now. Yeah. So, you know, that counts for a lot.
That said, with Villa, they pretty much have picked up from where they left off in terms of Unai Emery. He's working wonders with this side. Yeah,
he is. There's something about Unai Emery, isn't there? Didn't quite saying that. He still got Arsenal to Europa League final. Mm-hmm. They played Chelsea.
And I don't think he ever got the respect he deserved.
Beat Valencia in the semi-final, beat Napoli in the quarter-final during that period. So, an incredible record at Sevilla in the Europa League. So he's an elite manager, and Villa have got a top manager there, and he's doing great things with them. Really is.
And there you go. I mean, Aston Villa, you can see just picking up from where they left off last season. I mean, it is early days, isn't it? We're only, match week 4. But still, there's so many positives about this side and about the way Unai Emery is managing these players.
Well, when he came in, I think they were in a real bad position. I can't remember how low down they were, but I think they were near, like, fighting for relegation, weren't they? And he bought one player, and it was a left-back, and transformed their season last year, and I thought they were brilliant. He's brought some big players in this year. You know, Pau Torres, I remember me and Michael Owen on the opening day were talking, that was, for me, a player to watch out for Aston Villa. Diaby's come in. Can he continue to get the best out of Ollie Watkins? So they've got some top players in the team. And as John said there, he's an experienced manager, one that they think can get us European success. So this is why we've brought him in. And these are the expectations that we will have, and we'll give you those players to do so. But it will... Terrible against Newcastle, the opening game, but they've definitely corrected those mistakes and look a lot stronger the last couple of weeks.
So what do you think overall, early days again, as I said, but ambitions-wise for this season, what would their target be?
Again, I feel as if I'm repeating myself. A cup run, I think the Villa fans would love sort of a bit of joy. I remember Martin O'Neill being there. I think he finished 2 6th places in the Premier League. Got them to an FA Cup final, lost to Chelsea. I'm not quite sure since then, really. Yeah. Villa have been pretty much on the slide, if you like. I think the Villa fans now, they really feel they can go somewhere with this manager and the group of players they've got. What would be a success? A cup final, and of course a good league position, you know, finish. Brighton finished 6th last season. What were Villa 8th? Can they get better than Can they get better than 8th? So just push on, just try and get as far up as you can.
OK, that'd be good finish for them, wouldn't it? OK, next up, we're going to talk about Burnley against Tottenham. Let's hear from Ange Postecoglou after Vincent Kompany.
I've been following Ange Postecoglou for a long time. It's the continuation of what he did in Australia, especially a lot of it in Japan as well. So you can see his team play the same way in Japan, then with Celtic and now with Tottenham. And then the rest is always time. You know, I think managers like him have got a very clear idea of what they want to achieve, and I think his mentality, his competitiveness is something that will eventually lead to results. I'm quite sure of it.
I love the way that Vincent Kompany went about tackling the championship. It's a really tough league. Everyone knows that, and I thought the way his team played and really had a clear identity, I thought was outstanding. And looking at their first 2 games, that's how they're going to tackle the Premier League. So you know that there's belief within that squad, in the manager and in their methods. You know, they're going to work hard, they're going to press us, and we're going to have to be really brave and believe in our football to get through it.
OK, well, Burnley, they haven't had the easiest start to the season, have they, playing Aston Villa and Manchester City. But what are your expectations of them, Karen?
You've stitched me up here because I had them to go down in, the predictions at the start of the season. So I just think it's going to be tough for them. We did the game against Manchester City here, and that is a really tough start, as you mentioned, but it's just whether that style that Ange was mentioning there, that Vincent Kompany used in the Championship, have they got the quality and the calibre of players and the time to stamp that onto teams that are in the Premier League that are just a class above at times. But I love the manager, I love his principles, his style, and what he's done is extraordinary at that football club to do what he's done. But I really do worry for their survival this season.
Well, I have just heard that they have made a very late signing. Mike Tresseur, he's a midfielder from Genk. He scored 8 goals last season. And I guess goal-scoring midfielders are very, very important, especially for a side like Burnley.
Absolutely. If you can get goals from midfield and other areas of the pitch, it helps your strikers out as well. It takes a bit of the onus off your strikers getting all your goals. So goal-scoring midfielders are few and far between. So when you get one, they really help your team out.
OK, let's talk about Spurs. Brennan Johnson. Good signing for them? Good bit of business? Or
Brilliant. Really, really good. Really, really like him. Last season he was the spark of Forest, and equally, the start of this season, you'd expect the same.
Worth £47.5 million?
He's a young player. Forest had developed him, so they're going to want as much money as possible for him. Surprised they let him go, to be honest. But nonetheless, I think with the manager that's come in and you're signing young players, I think he'll fit right in there. He's pacey, he's got experience, and he can score a goal. And I think he'll be the type of player that the manager will think I can really develop, and maybe in 4 or 5 years' time he will be a £100 million player, and you'll be thinking, brilliant purchase. So I really like him.
Ange Postecoglou has gone down well with the Spurs fans, hasn't he? They've had a great start. They have just lost, though, midweek in the Cup. I wonder if this is about seeing a bit of a reaction, because it's all been going quite well so far.
Yeah, he made a lot of changes as well. To that
9
team
changes,
against Fulham. So, for me, I've watched every one of Ange Postecoglou's games in the last 2 years.
You know him well, don't you?
Know him very well. I've spoken to him. He plays 4-3-3, very stubborn in his formation, high press, hard work, pushes the fullbacks really forward, likes to get crosses in the box, likes to outscore the opposition on the front foot, doesn't take an awful lot of emphasis in the keeping clean sheets. Yeah. He wants to go and attack, he wants to play football that people enjoy.
And that's what Spurs fans have been asking for.
Absolutely. And you can already see the impact that he's had and the way Spurs have gone about it in terms of their passing, their movement. And he will not change. He will not change his philosophy. You heard Vincent Kompany there saying he played the same for the Australian national team, played it in the J-League in Japan, came to Celtic. People who were saying now that Brendan Rodgers should try and play 4-3-3, the Ange way. But if it was that easy, every team would be sort of adapting that style. But no, he's done brilliant. And Spurs, they don't win nothing, do they? So hopefully he'll bring something to Spurs, because they are absolutely crying out for a trophy.
Yeah, well, you say that. I mean, we just mentioned the fact that they're out of the Cup. But the 9 changes, does that surprise you? Because that was an opportunity for them to go on a cup run.
It was, but the manager came out and said, look, I want to see my players. I've got to give them all an opportunity. You know, I can't just keep sticking with this 11. I need to understand I'm a new manager coming into a new squad. I need to see who are the players that I want moving forward and maybe who can I rely on. And it did try and bring on some players at the end, like Maddison, to try and solve the issues in the game. But it's one of those things, unfortunately. But I think it was the right thing to do to trial other players or give them a chance, because I think you need a competitive squad to really progress in the Premier League.
Well, lots of positives, though, for Spurs, and we're looking forward to their game against Burnley this weekend. Well, now the window is firmly shut. When we return, we'll be unlocking the best of the business, not only from today, but the entire summer. Don't go anywhere. We're back in just a moment's time. Welcome back to Team Talks, where we've got a great weekend of Premier League action to look forward to. So on Saturday, it starts with Sheffield United against Everton, two teams desperate to pick up points. Brentford, well, they are unbeaten this season. They take on Bournemouth. We've got Burnley against Tottenham that we've already spoken about. A couple of others to pick out for you. The day on Saturday ends with Brighton against Newcastle. We'll be touching on Man City against Fulham in just a moment. And on Sunday, some big games there. Liverpool against Aston Villa and Arsenal facing Manchester United at the Emirates. But look, let's pick out the fixtures that we haven't yet spoken about. Sheffield United against Everton, two of the teams that have not picked up points this season going head-to-head. It feels like there's so much pressure on Everton and we're only 4 weeks in.
I feel like this is another six-pointer, isn't it?
It is. Already, so early on.
Yeah, I mean, Everton losing to Wolves last week, and a lot of people tip Wolves to struggle this season. But yeah, I do feel they are under pressure, Everton. I know they've signed Beto as a centre forward, so they're thinking maybe that will solve some of the problems in the attacking third. But I have watched them; they have looked good, and the results haven't sometimes reflected in the first game. In particular, I thought they were pretty good, just wasn't clinical. But yeah, they are under pressure, and like I said, it's a 6-pointer game already, so early in the season for me.
Yeah, I mean, they always start badly, don't they? But they seem to turn it around by the end of the season anyway. What about Brentford against Bournemouth? Brentford just feel like a team that are just here to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah, as well, playing well without Ivan Toney, the big striker who's not back till January. A good home side as well, similar to West Ham, the way Luton have to be. It's intense. They really get behind the team, back their team. Bournemouth, a little bit of an indifferent start, really. New manager. So I would say Brentford again. I think Brentford might take the spoils there.
Yeah, OK, two other fixtures we've not spoken about. Chelsea against Forest, City against Fulham. Do you think we're looking at two comfortable home wins there?
Chelsea versus
Forest and Man City against Fulham. I don't know.
I think Forest are very good on the counter-attack again. Chelsea probably dominate the ball, but they've got some very good counter-attacking players. And Manchester City, yeah, I think that's a home win for me. Although Marco Silva and Fulham very good, very strong, I still think City, for me, comfortable.
What about for you, John?
Well, Forest have just lost their best player, Brennan Johnson.
Yeah.
Big miss. Big player for Forest this season. That's a decision over Stevie Cooper's head.
And even as they
because there's no way Cooper would have been happy with losing his best player, his most potent striker in Johnson to Spurs. So I'd have to go Chelsea. I think Chelsea need to start winning. All the money they spent, all the talent that they have, they need to go on a run. You know, Pochettino needs to try and get the best and try and get the best philosophy, best team, his best 11 on the pitch, and stick with it. Chopping, changing every single week, different team. So I still think Chelsea will win that one.
OK, and lastly, Palace against Wolves. What are we expecting in that one, Karen?
I think Palace, to be honest. I think Wolves, I've been impressed with them, and obviously an amazing win and a vital win last week. I just think Palace, especially at home. OK, well, that rounds up our preview of this match week. I think now it's a good time to focus on the transfer window, because of course the window is now shut. We've seen that it's been a rather busy window, and we're going to show you some of the big standout moves and the big moves from today as well. Looking down that list, I mean, there's been an awful lot of money spent this window, but what moves stand out for you, Karen, on that list? To be fair, we just spoke about Brennan Johnson going to Tottenham, but I think selling him for 47 million and getting Callum Hudson-Odoi in for 5, that is a very good bit of business, I think. Of course, you don't want to lose your best player, as John just said, but I think Callum Hudson-Odoi, point to prove back in the Premier League, pretty much making £40 million profit there, so I think that's quite an interesting one.
Yeah, we touched on Sofiane Amrabat, who we all liked watching at the World Cup, who was with Morocco, who really was one of the standout players. He's gone to Manchester United on loan. But the other loan move for Ansu Fati to Brighton, I don't know if anyone really saw that one coming, but how good a bit of business is that one?
Brilliant, really good for De Zerbi. He goes into a really good side as well, full of quality that Brighton have. And I'm sure De Zerbi will try and get him in and fit him into that system, into that style that Roberto De Zerbi does so well. Keeps keeps sort of surprising people with the results that Brighton get, the way that they play. They're fantastic on the eye. So I think it's a brilliant signing from Barcelona to sign Ansu Fati. Is it on loan? Is it?
Yes, it is. It is on loan.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
It's a good signing.
And also, Man United have been rather busy, haven't they, today? I mentioned Sofiane Amrabat, but they've signed the goalkeeper Altay Bayindir for 4.3 million, and Serge Reguilon also on loan from Tottenham. And I guess they had that void, didn't they? They have that crisis at left-back, if you want to say. Luke Shaw and Malacia both injured, so they needed that player, didn't they?
I think they're long-term injuries as well, so you have to go and scramble in the market who's available, and this is who they turn to.
Well, talk to me now about Cole Palmer's move to Chelsea, £40 million. What did you make of that bit of business?
I was slightly surprised. I never want to question Pep because he's brilliant. He led the way for so many coaches. Unbelievable manager, everything about him. A young player, whether he's done it for financial fair play and trying to get a young player out to try and maybe recoup some money. But to let a young player go to Chelsea, I thought Cole Palmer's done well. I've seen him this season in the Community Shield and one or two other appearances. So there's obviously a reason why. There's obviously the reason that he maybe doesn't think he'll come on like in the likes of Foden and one or two others. But he was silky. He didn't look out of place at all during that Community Shield. Scored a brilliant goal.
Oh, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, and he just
great,
looked,
actually.
He looked like a Pep type of player, somebody that he'd bring on and improve, and then to learn that he's gone to Chelsea.
Yeah,
Slightly surprised, I've got to say.
Is it a good move for him as a player?
If he plays, you have to play.
Do you think he will?
I think there's I'm not surprised Chelsea have signed him because he's a young, talented player, and that just seems to be Chelsea's strategy.
Mantra, yeah.
Young player, good, we'll try and get them and we'll grab them on a 7 or 8 year deal. But for him personally, any young player, my biggest advice to any young players is you have to play every week. So if he's going to go there from City and not play and then go to Chelsea and not play, that isn't a good move for me. But, only time will tell. He's a top quality player, as we've just mentioned, but he'll definitely offer competition. Will he start? I don't know.
We'll have to wait and see. Well, now's a good time to actually talk about some of the most expensive signings, and you can see them there. Of course, Declan Rice at the top of the list, along with Moises Caicedo. I mean, both brilliant moves for those respective clubs, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an expensive window, hasn't it? I was looking at it going,
wow. It's topped it, hasn't it?
Vardiol, I really like him, though. I know you mentioned Rice and Caicedo, but I love Vardiol defensively. Absolutely brilliant.
How will he transform that defence?
Well, look, City have massively evolved. Pep Guardiola, ahead of the curve, as we all know, goes, I'm going to play last season, this season, with 4 centre-backs, and they're all versatile. They can dip into midfield. So I think he suits that bill. Left-sided defensive player who can go into midfield at times. He can offer cover. He's had World Cup experience. I think it's been a really good signing for them.
What about for you? When you look at that list of the most expensive signings this summer, which one stands out for you, John?
It's got to be Declan Rice. Arsenal finished second last season. He goes in, he's disciplined, he can maraud forward, intercepts, really good footballer, doesn't try and overdo things, don't see him hitting 60, 70-yard balls. He's a ball winner. He can take you up the pitch. He's got everything. Yes. Hence, he's 100 million. And as I said, he was brilliant for West Ham. You know, West Ham went and won a European trophy. He was captain, and I'm not quite sure whether he led them. He grabbed them by the scruff of the neck and dragged them through the tough times. Brilliant, great character. And I think he's bred for Arsenal. I really do. I think he'll do great there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, we're going to round up this chat now, but we have to talk about Mo Salah because there are talks of him moving to Saudi. Of course, their window shut on the 7th of September. So although our window has shut, he could actually still leave. We can't bring any more players in, but players can still go. So if Saudi Arabia, if that team come back with a higher offer, he could still go. And that would be a huge disappointment, not just for Liverpool, but the Premier League as well.
Well, he is, because I've had him as my top goal scorer this year. So if he goes, I'll be absolutely devastated. And that's one of my things out the window. But look, we'd be devastated to see him go. As you said, he's been so good, and we want to see him week in, week out. But I think if they came back with, what, £200 million potential of a 31-year-old, and you think way back when they sold Coutinho for 100 million, I think, at the time to Barca, or however many much it was, and then they went and bought Van Dijk and they went and bought a goalkeeper. They're giving you a lot of money to maybe rebuild and go again and be title contenders. I think it would be quite a tough one for Liverpool to turn down, as well as Mo Salah.
Yeah, but they haven't brought anyone in, have they? So who knows what will happen there. But as things stand, he's still a Premier League player and a Liverpool player. OK, we are going to wrap this up with some quick fire round questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Yes. We just need some one-word answers here. Right.
I need my answers here as well.
John, to you. Best signing of the window?
Rice.
OK.
Maddison so far.
OK. Underrated signing of the window, John?
Amrabat, for the reason that he was brilliant in the World Cup. It took up until the last day for him to move on from Fiorentina. Manchester United got a really good player that will make them better with his discipline, and I think that's what United need.
Yeah,
that more stability defensively, and I think he brings you that.
OK. What about for you? Underrated signing of the window?
Jefferson Lerma.
Oh, tell us why.
Because I think he's underrated, doesn't get the credit he's due. He just slots in, does his job, and I think a lot of people have paid a lot of money for holding midfielders in this window and the last window, and he's gone for a free, and I think I really like him and I see the impact that he's had. I just rate him, and I think he's underrated.
OK. One to watch out for sure this season. OK, biggest coup?
Biggest coup, I think, is Spurs getting Brennan Johnson.
Yeah.
I think he'll...
Worth the price tag for you as well?
Well, that's what you pay. That's the market. You know, was Brennan just in his early 20s? He's Wales' top man as well, best player for Wales.
Yeah, he's
Gareth Bale's retired, and Wales are pinning their hopes on Brennan Johnson. As I said earlier on, I don't think it's Stevie Cooper. He'd be devastated to have lost his best player. He'd be counting him to keep Forest in the Premier League again this season with his goals and his assists. Great signing for Spurs, and I think he'll do really well there.
OK.
James Ward-Prowse for me.
Yeah. OK, well, I think that. I can't argue with that. Team best window?
Spurs.
OK. And for you?
Brighton.
OK. And then, can you describe this window in a sentence, John?
Well, it's where we are. It's where we are now in football. The market is incredibly inflated. And there's money being spent now. Average players are actually going for millions and millions and millions of pounds.
Exactly.
So a little bit crazy, but you have to live with it.
That's where we are, the times we're in.
Expensive, that's what I'm going to say. That's
expensive, and that
Very
is
expensive.
it. It has been rather expensive, hasn't it? Well, on that note, it's time for us to say goodbye. That's the transfer window shut. That is Team Talks done and dusted. And that's goodbye from us in the studio. It's been a pleasure bringing you this show. Thank you very much for your company. And enjoy all the Premier League action across this weekend. And make sure you keep your eyes open for some of those new signings. We'll see you soon. Good night.